But I tried to think how to say it. I'm not scared. I'm just real ashamed of myself. That was it. That was the main thing I'd finally found out about being a patient in the world-famous Watson Pet Hospital. Kenny, you ain't got nothing to be ashamed of. You don't know what happened, Byron. You don't know what I did. Man, everybody cried. Mama was crying. Dad was scared. He cried too. That's some real scary stuff. That's some real sad stuff. He still didn't understand. Byron, I left Joey. I thought the Woolput had her, and instead of fighting him like you did, I left. I ran from him. How come you were brave enough to fight him and all I could do was run? All I could save was a shoe. A stupid, ripped-up shoe. I couldn't stop crying. Aw, man. You ain't gonna start talking that Woolpool mess again, are you? I told you. The Woolpool was some made-up garbage. I told you the only one I was fighting in the water was your stupid little behind. Wasn't no one in the water but you and me. That's what you think, Bi. But I know better. I've seen him twice. I couldn't believe Byron was talking to me. Most of the time, if I started sounding weepy and whiny, he'd take right off. Look, Kenny, if you don't quit talking that Woolpool nonsense, I'ma leave you in here to cry all alone. There ain't no such thing as a Woolpool. Then he stopped sounding so mean and said, and there ain't no such thing as magic powers neither. I was surprised he'd brought up the magic powers. You think I don't know why you've been hanging out behind the couch? He grabbed my ear and twisted my head until I had to look at him. You think I don't know you waiting for some stupid magic powers or genies or an angel to make you feel better? Dig this. You can wait behind the couch for the rest of your life. Ain't no magic powers gonna come back there and make you feel nothing. Only thing that's gonna happen back there is you're gonna stunt your growth for being in a little ball all day. He pulled my ear to make sure I was listening. If you've been spending so much time thinking about how you did save Joey, why don't you stop and think about why she wasn't in that church? Why don't you spend some time thinking about who it was that led her away? But it wasn't me, Byron. I never... Man, shut up and listen. He twisted my ear to make me be quiet. Ain't no genies in this world, Kenny. Ain't no magic powers. There ain't even no angels. Not in this neighborhood, anyway. Man, I just don't get you. You're supposed to be the one who's smart. How can you believe in something as stupid as magic powers and genies living behind a couch, but not believe it was a part of you that took Joey out of that church? Byron started throwing me curveballs. If you hadn't have been born, who would have took her away from that bomb? No one. If you hadn't have been born and she walked out of that hot church and saw some stranger waving at her from across the street, you think she would have followed him? Hell no. She'd have gone right back in there. If you hadn't have been born, who would have gone in that church to see if Joey really was there? Me and Mama and Dad were all too scared. You was the only one brave enough to go in there. Every time he made a point, he twisted my ear to make me understand better. But Byron, it's just not fair. What about those other kids? You know they had brothers and sisters and mamas and daddies who loved them just as much as we loved Joey. How come no one came and got them out of that church? How is that fair? How come their relatives couldn't come and warn them? Byron let go of my ear and thought for a second. Kenny, things ain't ever going to be fair. How is it fair that two grown men could hate Negroes so much that they'd kill some kids just to stop them from going to school? How is it fair that even though the cops were down there, might not know who did it, nothing will probably ever happen to those men? It ain't. But you just gotta understand that that's the way it is, and keep on stepping. Byron let me sniff and wipe my hand across my eyes before he slid my head back onto the linoleum and stood up. He went over and got some toilet paper and wiped my tears and my boogers off his legs. Then he let a couple of sheets of toilet paper float down and land on me and said, "Blow your nose. Wash your face. You've been behind that couch long enough. It's about time you cut this mess out. Mama and Dad beginning to think your little behind is seriously on the blink. Today is the day you check out of the world-famous Watson Pet Hospital. Don't let me catch you back there no more. You ain't got no cause to be ashamed or scared of nothing. You smart enough to figure this one out by yourself. Besides, you getting the word from the top wolf hisself. You gonna be all right, baby bruh. I swear to God." He walked over to the mirror and scrunched his face up so he could look at his chin again. Then he used his thumb and finger to pull that long, skinny black hair out a little bit. He let the hair go, smiled at himself, and ran his hands along his head like he was brushing his hair. "Shoot," he said. "I sure wish someone would come clean and tell me who my real folks was. There just ain't no way in hell two people as ugly as your mama and daddy could ever have a child as fine as me." He blew himself a kiss in the mirror, then left the bathroom before he shut the door. I could see that Mama and Dad and Joy were standing in their little knot, trying not to let me know they were eavesdropping. Mama whispered, "What's going on, Bi? Why was Kenny crying like that? Is he okay?" He told her, "Kenny's gonna be cool. He's related to me, ain't he?" "Byron Watson, how many times am I going to have to tell you about saying ain't?" Some of the time, it was hard to figure Byron out. He was right about some things, and he was very wrong about some other things. He was very wrong when he said the wool pull was something he made up. If he'd had his ankle grabbed by it, he'd know it was real. If he'd seen the way it crouched down, crawling around in the dust and the smoke of the church in Birmingham, he'd know it wasn't some made-up garbage. If he'd ever seen those horrible toes, he'd know the wool pull was as serious as a heart attack. He was very wrong about there not being anything like magic powers or genies or angels. Maybe those weren't the things that could make a run-over dog walk without wobbling, but they were out there. Maybe they were in the way your father smiled at you even after you messed up something real bad. Maybe they were in the way you understood that your mother wasn't trying to make you the laughingstock of the whole school when she'd call you over in front of a bunch of your friends and you spit on her finger to wipe the sleep out of your eyes. Maybe it was magic powers that let you know she was just being Mama. Maybe they were the reason that you really didn't care what the kids would say. "Yuck! You let your mama slob on you?" And you had to say, "Shut up! That's my mama. We got the same germs." Maybe there were genies in the way your sister would throw a stupid tea party for you and you had fun even though it was kind of embarrassing to sit at a little table and sip water out of a plastic teacup. Maybe there were magic powers hiding in the way your older brother made all the worst thugs in the neighborhood play basketball with you, even though you double-dribbled every time they threw you the ball. And I'm sure there was an angel in Birmingham when Grandma Sands wrapped her little arms around all the weird Watsons and said, "My family, my beautiful, beautiful family." I climbed up on the toilet, leaned over the sink to take a look. I smiled. Byron was right about some things too. He was very right when he said I was too smart to believe magic powers lived behind a couch. He also knew that he was talking about when he said I was going to be all right. Joetta banged on the bathroom door. "Kenny, Byron said you're feeling much better now. If that's right, come on out. I gotta go to the bathroom real bad." She said real like it had a million letters in it. Some of the time, I wonder if there really was something wrong with me. A few minutes ago, I'd been crying on the floor like a kindergarten baby. And now, I was looking in the mirror laughing. I blew my nose and splashed a little water on my face, 'cause I wanted to go out. Besides, I had to think of a way to get at least half of my dinosaurs back from Rufus. "Come on in, Joey."